day of conference IC-AICE-2021. As we move ahead with conference, we feel satisfied that the high quality of technical deliberations have gone through. Excellent keynote addresses and approximately 75 paper presentations in parallel sessions in these 2 days, which acknowledges the interest and devotion in building Technobridge for the coming generation. We are in the third day of conference. Certainly, today too would highlight excellent panorama of advancements and innovations in civil engineering through keynote addresses by Dr. K.N. Gunalan, ex-president ASC 2020, and later on by Dr. Ronald Oral from Philippines, along with around 30 technical paper presentations. Today, we exemplify the keynote address by Dr. K.N. Gunalan on the topic Climate Crisis. I graciously welcome keynote speaker Dr. K.N. Gunalan.
Thank you.
We welcome you, sir.
Thank you very
here
much.
Today. I request now
Ranjan,
Professor.
Please make Dhananjay as a co-host. Ranjan, please make Dhananjay as co-host. One second, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, I made it.
That presentation is there along with madam's motivation.
Sir, I made it. Dhananjay.
Okay. Yeah, he's doing it.
Okay, we start the presentation.
Yeah.
We graciously welcome you, sir, once again here. Thank you, sir. I request Professor A.D. Shende to introduce Dr. K.N. Gunalan to the gathering.
K.N. Gunalan completed his PhD from Texas State University in 1986. He completed master's degree in soil mechanics and foundation engineering from College of Engineering, Gundi, India in 1981. He is the immediate past president of American Society of Civil Engineering, ASC, in 2020. He was associate lecturer in civil engineering, College of Engineering, Gundi, Madras, India in 1981 to 1982. Now he is the senior vice president of transportation alternative delivery Americas at AECOM based in Salt Lake City. Previously, he was the vice president at Person Brinkoff. Guna has managed a large complex infrastructure projects providing the technical advice on civil, structural, geotechnical, pavement and materials issue on a variety of projects around the world. His collaborative approach has contributed to many successful programs and projects ranging from a few $1,000s to more than $3 billion. He has been active in ASC for many years, including leadership roles as a Region 8 Director from 2009 to 2012, Regional 8 General Governor 2005 to 2007, ETA Section President 2003 to 2002 to 2003, and Texas Section High Plains Branch President 1992. He served as the chair of ASC's 2014 Global Engineering Conference in Panama City, Panama, in celebration of the 100th anniversary of the Panama Canal. Most recently, he served as a governor for the Geo Institute and was a member of steering committee for the 2017 ASC India conference. Thank you, sir.
Thank
you, Shende, sir. I now request Dr. Gunalan sir to please proceed with the keynote address. Over to you, sir.
Okay. How do I?
Dhananjay, remove the share now. Screen share. Sir, now you can share your screens.
No. No, hang on a minute.
Yes, sir, it has come.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Pallavi and Akshay. You know, just as a matter of information, my daughter's name is also Pallavi. So,
Yeah.
Yes.
so thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to join you all again this time. I know, we talked about, it's an international conference on advancements and innovations in civil engineering. I know we talked a little bit, and I will touch on some of the climate crises and things like that. But since this is being a conference on, advancements and innovation, I also want to share with you, my thoughts and things about, what does civil engineering look like in the future. We keep, ASE is undertaking a couple of projects now to talk about, what would civil engineers need to know and learn today to be able to practice 50, 60, 70 years from now. How would we live? How would we move about? And what would we do? And then, what are the things that we're doing now that needs to change to preserve this planet that we all come to have called home? And most of us, we don't think about it. If you think about it, this planet has been here for millions of years and will continue to be here for millions more. Human life is but for maybe 100 years at best. But in the 100 years, we do a lot of drama and galata and create a lot of these problems that's going to cause a lot of climate crisis. So we need to be very cognizant about what we do and how we go about with our daily lives today to preserve the natural resources on this planet for the generations to come and what we need to do. So what do civil engineers do? Civil engineers are responsible for the built environment. We have a responsibility not only for the built environment, but we also have a responsibility to preserve the resources of the natural environment. So civil engineering, it's a great profession. And this is something that I tell people, towards the end of my presentation, but here is one place that I can tell you that, I'm very passionate about this profession. I'm very proud to call myself a civil engineer. You are in a community and a society building profession. So you need to be very proud and passionate and be deliberate in what we do and how we go about helping build the quality of life for all our fellow citizens on this planet Earth. Whether it is in New York City, whether it's in Delhi, Mumbai, wherever the case may be, we have a responsibility to balance. And if you go back and look at the Webster's dictionary, a definition of engineer, you need to know that you are supposed to balance the three-legged stool: the socioeconomic, the environment, and the science. So we need to make sure that we are very cognizant about everything that we do, and we need to be very deliberate. So you probably have seen a lot of these things, and I don't have to tell you with some of the folks. And one of the things that that always amazed me with a lot of things, and I don't have to, I tell people in America, when they complain about traffic and congestion, I said, you ain't seen traffic till you travel in India. Whether it's in Mumbai, Delhi, or Calcutta, or any other places, I said, if you're talking about travel, congestions and so on and so forth. But as civil engineers, the first thing that comes to our mind when we say we have a traffic congestion problem, we look how long it takes to go from point A to point B. So the immediate thought that you get as an engineer is, how do I widen this road? Make it from a 3-lane highway to a 6-lane highway. Then I think, the traffic will flow faster. I can get to point A, from point A to point B sooner, faster, and so on. As civil engineers, we need to be more deliberate. Solutions to address traffic congestion does not necessarily mean you have to add more concrete and steel. Why is that? Because the production of concrete and the production of steel and a lot of these materials, as you know, are also responsible for the greenhouse gas emissions. As probably most of you know, the temperature of this planet is going to go up by few degrees, which is not a good thing because it has a lot of adverse effects. And right now, the United Nations and a lot of nations have come together to basically say we need to somehow arrest that temperature increase to no more than 1.5 degrees Fahrenheit, by the year 2050. Otherwise, the planet is going to get warmer. So we're going to have, the warming trends, the melting of the icebergs and everything else, and a sea level rise and a lot of other things. So when you're given an opportunity to think about a solution for a problem, think differently. Don't automatically think that adding more concrete, steel, or asphalt is going to solve the problems, because the more you create, the more problems you're going to create. You need to figure out, how do we change the behavioral patterns and how we live, where we live, how do we commute, and where do we work, and make sure that it is all compatible with preserving the resources and making sure that we don't add to and exacerbate the climate change and the global warming issues. So that's what you need to think about when you're looking at the challenges of the future. The other thing I tell people, nature has a way of balancing itself. COVID-19, I call this as my cousin COVID. And the reason I refer to this as my cousin COVID, it is like one of those relatives of yours that you cannot avoid at every family get together and function. You get to have to meet this person, even though you may not like the person. So in the last year and a half or so, COVID-19 has been like my cousin, causing me problems, and I don't want to be around, but it always shows up in places that I don't want it to. Civil engineers are responsible for the public health, safety, and welfare. That is our ultimate responsibility and vision of providing leadership to provide and enhance the quality of life of every fellow citizen while we're preserving the resources of this planet. What has this shown us? That the essentials of life, we need to have a roof over our head. We need to have running water. Water sustains life. We also need to have water to take a bath, wash vessels, cook, and a lot of other things. We also need water to flush our toilets. We were joking the other day and told somebody, even if you don't have electricity, you can, light a candle. If you don't have heat, you can burn a little bit of wood to get some heat. You can cover yourself, and you can have all of these things. But when you're not able to flush your toilet, that's a problem. And then, of course, air, the quality of air, without the pollutions and stuff. We need good air when we go out to make sure that we don't create any health issues by breathing in contaminated, polluted air. Food and energy. Energy more specifically to not only for our entertainment purposes, but like what we're doing right now. We need energy to communicate. Human beings, we are gregarious and we would like to communicate even if we are sitting by ourselves in a room. So these are the basic essentials in life. So this is what the pandemic has shown us, that this is what we need. We don't need planes, trains, and automobiles. to go from here to there. These are the basic necessities of life. Those are all added luxuries in life as human beings, if you look at the big scheme of things. So when we do anything, any project, civil engineers have a responsibility to make sure that we keep in mind and make sure that any development is not only sustainable, but it is also resilient. Because of the climate change, the weather conditions are changing, the patterns are changing, the weather events are becoming very severe. Recently in the US, we had so many tornadoes. We had a winter freeze, an Arctic freeze that came down and went as far down as Texas and froze. We had a lot of power outages. There was no water. There was no electricity. So a lot of restaurants had to close. Food storage was all gone, wasted. So we need to make sure that anything that we do is sustainable. So what do I mean by sustainable? It's like looking at the entire life cycle cost of a program or a project to make sure that it's all taken into account. And what do we mean by resilient? We need to make sure that it can adapt and withstand the weather events that we are thinking that we may be experiencing in the coming years because of all the climate change issues. I also tell people that we need to talk in terms of, we can't say that we need to be living in smart cities. Don't just say the city is smart, which implies that the rest of the country is not. Let's talk about human beings. We like to live in communities, whether it's an urban community or a rural community. Every community needs to be a smart community. We need to provide access to a good quality of life. And now this pandemic has also shown that we need to provide accessibility to people even in the rural areas, digital connectivity, the broadband, whether for your cell phones or whether for communication for schools, whatever the case may be. We need to make sure that any of the projects that we do and develop needs to be sustainable and it needs to be resilient. So where does it go? The education. It has to start with the education system. So Professor Varghese and others and other faculty are online. And my appeal to you is you need to rethink about the future of education. What this pandemic has proven to us is that we can do this mostly remotely. We don't need to have campuses. Don't need to have big classrooms. We can do a lot of these things online right now. And some of the basic principles can be learned online. Hopefully it'll be learned through a good source. And that's where ASC and other organizations can put together programs to help make sure that your basic understanding of the basic principles are sound and solid. But the institutions need to bring the students in to work in small groups to be able to learn how to apply those basic principles to solve real life problems. So going forward, this is my prediction and my challenge to all the academics and the educators. We need to rethink about how are we going to go about educating the workforce of tomorrow. And also you need to make civil engineering more exciting. I know a lot of people go into computer science and now you're talking about artificial intelligence, you're talking about drone technology and a whole bunch of other things, but we need to have the basic principles clearly understood, how to apply them for real life problems. But we also need to make sure that civil engineers are more broad in terms of looking at things, how do you bring about a project, an infrastructure project, which needs to bring in different disciplines to help make this thing work. I will explain to you a little bit as we go along as to what I mean by that. Why? Because the tools and the technology of today is changing. I still remember, as you probably saw in my resume, nicely narrated by Ashay, I still remember when I started and when I was doing my undergraduate degree at College of Engineering, Guindy in Chennai, we had a computer building. We had those huge computers. We had those punch cards where you didn't even have a print on top. So if you made any mistakes after 3 days, they'll tell you there was something wrong with the deck of punch cards that you gave us, so we couldn't run your program. So this was writing in Fortran, not C++ and so on. Then the improvement to that was there was a printout on top of the punch cards whereby you can check it to make sure that you haven't made any mistakes, so that you don't have to wait for 3 days to find out whether your program will run or not. And then we had these copy machines, which was like a drum with an ink in it and a stencil paper, and then you made copies. But now, with the click of a button, you can get anywhere, print anything. You can do 3D, 4D, 5D designs. You got the BIM models, the virtual reality stuff. And then we are now starting to think about how do we monitor the structural health of some of these major structures, and how do you go about developing a performance criteria for some of these things. I know somebody told you this is the type of concrete you need, this is the strength of steel, so this is what you need to do. Need to make sure that it is strong in bending, in deflection, and so on and so forth, and then you think it's going to be okay. But now we're moving away from a prescriptive specification type of approach to a performance type of an approach. That's part of the sustainability and things like that. So ASE is also challenging the profession to say, how can we reduce the cost of infrastructure by 50%? That is to stretch the dollar more, not over design. Remember, as engineers, we have a responsibility. I tell this to my geotechnical colleagues that if you're going to design everything with a factor of safety of more than 3, I don't need an engineer. I can get a monkey to do it. So that's what engineering is about, to be able to design it as efficiently as possible with minimal factors of safety so that you don't cause a risk and catastrophic failures, but don't over design it. So we need to look at performance. And then you now got, even with the stuff we're talking about, flying taxis, autonomous and connected vehicles to carry people from place to place. And then there's a lot of data that is being generated. It could be garbage, but so we need to be able to decide what do we want to monitor, what kind of data are we going to collect, and how are we going to use the data for the future to predict. So these are all new things coming in. So the classroom and what we teach the students today to deal with the challenges of tomorrow is very different than what some of us learned, and especially what I learned a number of years ago. So we need to think differently. We need to adapt with time and make those changes so that we are not left behind. My concern with civil engineering is if we don't make these changes, then we are going to be taken over by other disciplines. So in order for us to maintain our leadership, be smart, be broad, and bring a lot of folks into the fold to help you design, maintain, operate, and decommission the infrastructure of the future. Make it sustainable, make it resilient. So what does the future hold? As you probably have talked, there's a lot of things that's happening. There is climate change going on. We're thinking about alternative energy, that is renewable energy. We're thinking about high-tech construction equipment and advanced materials. We're thinking about different things. So these changes can be very confusing and can be very dysfunctioning and, for the organizations and individual. And it may not be able to easily comprehend and be able to tackle. So the American Society of Civil Engineers has taken on a project called the Future World Vision Project. I don't know whether some of you have seen it and heard about it, but I wanted to share something with you today to give you a perspective about where we think society is going to evolve. I am very fortunate to have lived through this era because I've seen all the developments in the last 30 to 40 years. A lot of good things. When I still remember the 33 and third records, then we had the 45s, then we had the audio tapes, and then we had, the CDs, and now we have the P3s. I mean, you have all kinds of tools and technology, and you think life is being easier, but no. But the challenges are a lot of these things are creating other issues. So I'm going to give you a little bit of taste of what we are looking at, and then we can discuss some more, and I'll be glad to discuss it further. So ASE is predicting. This is not just a concept. A lot of research has gone in, a lot of intelligent people have gotten together to figure out where this might be. So we are in 2020, 2021. So we think the megacity concept is something that's going to happen, and y'all are probably seeing it, in India. There are a lot of cities that are growing in population and size. A lot of the cities in India are kind of bursting at the seams. And so we are seeing a lot of trend towards migration of humans towards an urban environment for good and better opportunities so that they have a better quality of life. So people will migrate. So we think in the next so many years, majority of the population is going to be living in large urban environments. But as a fallout from the urban environments, we think we'll have kind of what is called as a rural city. You have a basic nucleus surrounding which you'll have some rural cities, that kind of satellite cities where you commute from. And it's like going from Gurgaon to New Delhi, or going from Juhu and other places to central Mumbai, things like that. So that's the nucleus, the megacity. And this was one of the themes of the conference that I helped create in 2017 in India. Talked about the challenges of developing and providing infrastructure through rapid urbanization. So we need to see what are those kinds of challenges in a megacity setting. So rural city. And then we had another thing called the floating city. Actually, the floating city was the one that was first put out a couple of years ago in Miami. With global warming and sea level rise, we think that 60 to 70% of the population now lives in coastal areas. With the sea level rise, we think some people who can't afford it will move upland and try to survive. And those who can afford it are going to float off into the sea and live on the sea. So it was a floating city concept. So this was not something that we did. We had also something called as a blue sky competition, where the students from a student chapter in Mexico City came up with the floating city concept. They had studied it, and they said, well, if you're going to live on water, what would life be like if you imagine a city that's floating on the ocean? Then the fourth one is the concept of a frozen city. We have already seen some ships now cracking and creating pathways up through the Arctic and so on, because we had goods and services being deployed through various places. And as you probably heard, the Panama Canal, the Suez Canal, were all travel paths to distribute goods and services across the globe. But now we think that cutting across the Arctics up north in the cold region is the shorter way of distribution of goods and services across the globe, and a cheaper way. So once you develop those kinds of corridors, there's going to be life along those types of corridors. So that's why the concept of frozen city. And the last one is nothing but, we already are having an explorer up in Mars. We are looking to land people back in the moon again. So the question is, cities on other planets could be something that happens in the year 2070 and beyond. So these were based on research and studies through consultants and others. And you can see a lot of other things also being thrown around here in terms of other developments that's going to happen through a period of time. So this is kind of, the timeline might change, but the concept, I don't think it's going to change. We'll definitely see a few of these things happen in your lifetime, the younger folks. God willing, I'll be gone, and probably, look down from somewhere and, hope that you're able to survive and do the right things. So we showcased the floating city in Miami in 2019. We showcased the megacity concept last year virtually in 2020. And so I'm going to share with you a short video on the megacity, which basically talks to you about what a megacity might look like 50, 60 years from now. So as a civil engineer, just keep thinking and look at all the things that could be changing and would be different than what you do now. Listen carefully, and then we can discuss some more. And how does that tie into the theme of the conference about the advancements and the innovations, and also because of what might happen with the global warming if you're not careful of making sure that we have sustainable solutions and resilient infrastructure, what could happen in the future. So let me know if this works.
If you don't make a plan or make a goal and have a vision, then you just react your way into the future. And that's not what we want to do as civil engineers. We want to lead into the future.
How we do our jobs as civil engineers, maybe as systems engineers, will be different in the future.
What are the different cities we see evolving, and how can we really get an understanding of those cities? How can we immerse ourselves in those cities today?
What are the different social infrastructures, physical infrastructures that can be created in which we can all come together and thrive?
What's really important about looking at this through a world-building lens is that it is designed to look forward and then thread back into the present. The further out you look, the more it changes our view of the present.
We're literally forced to not only reimagine our communities, but to rediscover our neighbors, to rediscover many of the things that are right in front of us.
We're spatializing narrative and allowing the user to tell their own story as they navigate the experience of this virtual cityscape.
What can a megacity grow toward so that it's serving a better purpose? You start looking at individual buildings then, because you can typically shape a building. And can you connect several buildings together?
The buildings might form coalitions and interact with the utility, and the utility will interact with the providers of energy all around. That becomes a transactive energy system, and the buildings can play an active role.
I can design a microgrid that serves that district. Or if we need the microgrid to serve an adjacent district, we layer those together.
We need a water supply system that can meet 15 million people's needs.
Every building in the future should be capturing sunlight and rainwater, and every building should be recycling its own waste.
Ideally, the life cycle of infrastructure is one that is continuous, or perhaps reused in the future without going back and re-emitting all that carbon to do the same thing over again. That's the way we've built over the last century, and we simply cannot do it anymore.
Buildings are not unlike a human body. They have bones and skin. They consume energy and regulate temperature and generate waste. What if architects use genetic tools from synthetic biology to encode the architecture of buildings right into the DNA of organisms?
The facades now become active components. And one active thing that facades can do, they can breathe or they can sweat.
You can infuse biological functionalities into structural building materials.
Almost 100% of all the controls in buildings are going to have some element of AI in them and machine learning. As you walk into the building in the morning, the building will recognize you by your electronic signature. You would have created a profile about your temperature, your ventilation preference, and then some of this microenvironment might follow you.
What would social cohesion look like in the city of 2070? It's reasonable to expect that it would actually be vertical.
So, going vertically also brings its own challenges in terms of safety and security.
You might have 175 drones coming in at 11:45 a.m. delivering lunch. Where do they land? How much space are between them? What are the specifications?
It just has to be designed in a way that people can interact, and making sure that you're encouraging paths of travel that are spontaneous.
We're at just the right point in time to get together and build basically the aerial equivalent of what we did in this country with the national interstate highway system, and no longer be restricted to 2 dimensions.
So how do you get the public involved in civil engineering, in the process of civil engineering.
One of the best ways that we can make sure that all voices are heard and included is to start with the people who are doing the planning and developing and see what their teams look like.
How can you ensure social equity and social justice and get input from the community for the projects that we're working on?
We are very conscious about the demographic, the diversity of the community and the society, and make sure that we don't leave anybody behind.
Creating these multi-use spaces is one way of doing that, of bringing people together. And once they're in the same shared space, there is more opportunity for connection, there's more opportunity for shared experience, there's more opportunity for civil dialogue.
The best solutions on earth, they come with diversity of thought. What I love most about the Future World Vision Project is that we can think about it together. We can have this dialogue.
Users will encounter one another and have conversations across disciplines that will begin to feed back and bring new information into the system.
We're trying to build a world and trying to build a machine that is creating absolute engagement of the user and of the engineer in their own future.
The Future World Vision is really at the core of what we're trying to do at ASCE in transforming the idea of what a civil engineer can be. And that's how we think that we can advance the profession of civil engineering and attract the best and brightest.
Oh my goodness. This fourth industrial revolution, married to the fundamentals of concrete, glass, and steel, is this incredible toolbox for society. It's really on us as civil engineers to pull that all together.
If you don't make a...
So, what do we need to do to prepare ourselves today to meet the challenges of tomorrow? So this is my challenge, as you probably saw. The systems, they even talk about going up vertically and people living, in floors, and they may not even come down to the ground, groceries and so on. And basically, you will have everything delivered to your doorstep. And as the pandemic has shown, most of the people are shopping online, getting things delivered to the home. If you're living in a high-rise building, where does that come in? I don't think it's me. Somebody, Rangarav Acharya, can you turn your mic off, please? Okay, thank you. So these are the challenges. So as civil engineers, you need to think today. Don't think any idea is a bad idea. I even use the example of pavement. As civil engineers, when we're asked to design a pavement, we think about asphalt, concrete, surface course, base course, sub-base, drainage, gradation. But we need to be thinking differently, because pavement surfaces are going to be a huge resource to collect energy, renewable energy, transmit energy, to continuously dynamic charging of cars and vehicles as they travel over the roadway. So, and then right now from Saudi Arabia, I've been asked to say, what are the low carbon pavement design are you aware of, and what can be done? Hello? So most of you who are now in the system, you need to think about, what does the civil engineer of tomorrow look like? What do I need to know today? Even with the floating city, I asked the question, a geotechnical engineer, what type of foundations would be designing for a floating city out in the middle of an ocean? So you need to be thinking about, how do you manage waste? How do you generate energy? So civil engineers need to bring in electrical, other disciplines, because you need instruments to monitor, collect data, share data. Traffic engineers are collecting so much data at intersections to make sure that the traffic flows smoothly from one intersection to another. And if there's any issues, then how do we correct it? There's a lot of data analytics involved. There's a lot of artificial intelligence involved. There is so much cybersecurity issues involved. So what do civil engineers need to know? You need to know the programs and the projects that you're working on, and you need to take control of that domain and bring all these various disciplines to help make this thing happen for the future. So it has to be a very broad approach, but we also need to be very smart about how we go about looking at the future. Otherwise, people who develop these tools and technology will take over our discipline, and we will become relegated as second-class citizens just doing calculations and providing some drawings. So there's a lot of programs out there, professional certifications and so on, to help bridge the gap between what the universities can give you to what is needed in actual practice. So these are things that you need to continue to keep thinking about: continuing education, learning new things, making sure they're thinking about new materials, thinking about how do we, make sure that, the production of concrete, the cement and concrete, creates a lot of carbon. How do we minimize and go into a low carbon emission type of construction materials? Because with all the growth, we are adding 83 million people to this planet every year. The population is growing. We are going to hit 9 billion people. So to provide good quality of life for all those 9 billion people, it's going to involve a lot of infrastructure. So the profession, the future of the profession looks very bright, but we also need to be smart, knowing what we know today, to make sure that we don't create and contribute more to the climate crisis. So we also need to develop leaders. Civil engineers are leaders, enhancing the quality of life of every citizen around the world. So take pride, be very optimistic, think out of the box, don't hesitate to challenge the status quo, look for new things, and I'm sure that the bright future will be bright. And I shared this picture. There's another movie called Dream Big, but that's a different story. But you need to be thinking out of the box. Keep dreaming with your feet on the ground. And then, of course, be innovating all the time. Don't keep and don't settle for status quo. Ask, how can I do this better? If I do this, what is it going to do? So those are the kinds of things that you need to be thinking about constantly as civil engineers. You need to advance the profession. You need to innovate every step of the way. It's not only the materials and the tools, but also the process. How do we deliver things better? How do we deliver things faster? How do we deliver things cheaper? And then through the life cycle, how do I maintain this at a very minimal cost without causing more to the climate crisis? And then, of course, I don't have to share this, but being in India, I thought I would share this. You must be the change that you wish to see in this world, as quoted by the father of our nation, Mahatma Gandhi. So with that, I challenge you to continue to innovate. I challenge you to, question the status quo. That's how we're going to progress. And that's how this profession is going to continue to lead the way into the future. Feel free to stop me and ask me any questions, and I'll be more than glad to answer.
Thank you so much, sir. Very well said, sir. Various challenges we require to carry on due to global warming, and we must have good vision and dedication in rectifying it. Thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful presentation. Now the chat box is open for question. Please put your question in chat box. I request all the participants.
Yeah, I think the BIM courses and other kinds of things, tools, you need to make sure that, people are versatile in being able to do all of those things. So it's not only BIM, but we also have, the 3D design, 4D design, and 5D design. You need to be able to understand how to schedule, how to cost estimate, and a lot of these things. And then, of course, now the virtual reality is there. And then you're also using, robots and other tools to monitor things too. So, there's a lot of things out there that, can be done.
Sir, one question is asked by Dr. Shri Ram. Effect of land use change on life of people. So please comment on this, sir.
Of course. I mean, we need to be thinking, this is one of the things that, it has to come from the leaders, our political leaders and people in the public sector. The land use, it needs to be looked at and planned for the future, because we need to make sure that, we can't keep spreading ourselves too far. The density and how do we use mixed use, whether it's, around. And I think the one of the good things that happened for us in India with the British Raj is they united us with a common language with English. They gave us the railroads. A lot of our cities and other things developed around railroads and things. So that was a good thing that happened a long time ago, whether we realize it or not. But here in the United States, we had the rails, then we took them out, we built roads, and people started living far and away. And now we're trying to build back around railroads and get them closer in more dense settings in urban, where people can walk around, live and work close to where they live and things like that. So land use planning is an important aspect. And I will give you an example. When I moved here to a place called West Jordan in Utah, the city folks had a charrette where they brought in all the people from the city to help with the planning of the future of the city. So they gave us, colored pencils, papers, city map, and then they said, tell us what you see the city look like. How would you like the city to look like in 30 to 50 years from now? And so all the children and little young folks themselves to put it down on a piece of paper. I've been here for 30 years, and I can slowly see all the development that has been happening in the city. Slowly they've implemented over the years through taxes and other things. So, it's a little different. So, the systems are different, I understand. But yes, it makes a huge difference in land use planning. It all has to come together. And as civil engineers, we can help bring all that together. And I think Siddharth has asked a question, what are some good courses? I will have to send you some information to that, because if you look at, some of the universities, and I think you can check it out and look for, I think BIM training is not necessarily as a course at a university. It could be a certification program. I think Dr. Varghese can maybe help you with that, because, there are different places provide different types of training. And I don't know whether you have a specific microstation training or a course, Dr. Varghese, in your curriculum, but some places do, but some places, you can look for certification outside, to build your skills there.
Thank you, sir, for your guidance. When Mr. Prashant want to know, how can we reduce CO2 emission?
Well, as I said, everybody thinks differently. They think transportation is causing problems. Construction contributes problem. Our agricultural stuff also contributes to the problem. So we need to look at it very holistically. So civil engineers provide the infrastructure. So our focus should mainly be looking at, the types of projects that we do. We need to make sure that we're doing the right projects and then do the projects right. So when you put a program together and a plan together, you need to look at it in a holistic manner, not just go do whatever the developer wants you to do. The question is, you need to look at what does it do, not only for now, but also in the long run. And then how do you go about reusing these materials? How do you stretch the design life of some of these programs and projects so that you don't have to keep rebuilding and renovating it and causing more and more greenhouse gas emissions. So materials that we use, the production of materials costs, deforesting, it creates issues as well, because the forests are the ones who kind of capture the carbon, that carbon dioxide that we emit out and so on. So we need to think about all of those things in terms of how they come together. So you need to have some kind of a training and a program in sustainability and resilience. So that gives you a broad understanding of all the elements, how it comes together. So, that's something that we can do.
Okay, sir, we'll take 1-2 more questions here.
Okay.
So the question is, what do you think is a challenge for Indian engineers in preparing themselves for the future? This question is from Shivraman, Mr. Shivraman.
Yes, Mr. Shivraman, very good question. That is one of the reasons I made this presentation today, to tell you what the future might be like. So if you're still thinking and talking about concrete, mixed design, and using the same thing as steel, so you need to start thinking about, understand a little bit about concrete, the challenges about concrete, and what can we do to minimize the use? How do we go about designing things more efficiently? Because in those days, when you didn't know much, you said, okay, if you think you needed 6 inches of concrete, okay, let's make it, 8 inches of concrete. So that way I think we'll be okay. But the 2 inches of concrete adds to, it's additional material that was not needed, but adds to, your climate issues. So you need to be efficient in what you do. You need to be thinking about different materials that, reduces the carbon emissions and so on. And you need to be thinking about new things going forward. So that's how the Indians, I know everybody is focused on IT and technology. Yes, artificial intelligence is coming. Big data stuff is coming. You need to be able to not only understand the basics, learn where and how the data is and how to collect and analyze the data and be able to share that information. So these are all applications that will help you to prepare yourself for the future. Because if you just sit there and talk about cyclic stress curves and do this and do that, you won't. As I said, payment was an example. Payment is a framework. There are a lot of technology that's going to go into the payment that's going to, as I said, harness solar energy, renewable energy and stuff. And also you're going to have things in there that's going to transmit energy, like, charging of car batteries and so on and so forth as the car is driving. So you need to figure out how best to design the payment section while all of this technology is embedded in it. So those are all the types of things that you need to be thinking about. And as the video showed you, when you walk into the building is going to recognize you by your retina or whatever. It's going to identify you, identify your preferences, just like, you do your preferences settings in your, iPhone or whatever now, it's going to tell you what type of temperatures that you like to have your room set up in. So when you walk into your office, it's automatically set at a temperature, and also the lighting. And then the facade of the building, probably draws the energy from the daylight and stuff like that. And it could help with the lighting of the building. So there's a lot of those kinds of things are coming. So you need to figure out, how do we do those kinds of things? So these are all applications and so on. So we just need to be thinking of not only learning the basics, but look at where is technology and the tools are going to take us, and be a little bit more proficient in learning and understanding them. I think the challenges for our folks is an opportunity to learn the practical applications and solving real life problems. So that's where I think we need to focus on for the folks in India.
Sir, next question is from Varghese sir. Can a software addresses the challenges and come up with a solution or advices?
As I said, you still have to have the knowledge and the experience. I think these are only tools and technologies, and they will probably provide you the information, but I think a good engineer is the one who has a more practical approach and application. So I'm assuming that's what Dr. Varghese is asking is, you not only need to have all this information, but how do you make that judgment call and a decision in solving those types of problems? I think that's what you need.
Sir, Rinshia sir want to know how can report card help in future?
The report card gives people an understanding of what is needed. Where the existing.
दोनच काढले या रेकॉर्डला डायरेक्ट कमीत कमी किती होतं तेवढा कर पूर्ण तेवढा नाही होत तेवढाच होतं हा हे काय
Participant, please mute yourself, please. Yes, sir, please continue.
Okay, so the report card gives the current state of the infrastructure. It tells you where we are, where the gaps are, and what needs to be done. And when you need to be able to know where the gaps are and where the needs are. So that's what the report card tells you is, how to spend your money. And it's not like you just randomly spending your money. It's based on a whole system approach to look at where things are and how do you use your limited resources that you have and make the right investments so that it continues to serve the purpose. So I think the report card does help look at it from a big picture. And so that's one of the tools that you can use. But at the same token, you need to be also very sensitive about, we all have inherited a certain value of infrastructure. How do we continue to make that work for you for a period of time before you invest in new infrastructure? So that's going to help you a little bit to stretch the money. And then you need to look at what other things that you need to do and not just blindly throw money down the drain.
Thank you, sir. Sir, one more question from Varghese, sir. What are most prospective country for young budding technocrats? Which sector has better hope? Your comment on this, sir, please.
I don't know. It's, as I said, India has got 1.3 billion people. We have to make sure that we provide a good quality of life for all citizens. And the need and the demand for folks in India is going to be high. So it's all of those developing countries, emerging economies, as we call them. That's where the needs are going to be. So, I know there's a lot of excitement about the stuff that's going on in the Middle East. To me, some of those things that they build, I may be creating a controversy here, but some of you probably have seen all of the exciting things that they built in Dubai, Burj Khalifa that was built. And if you look at it, you got so much land and space available. They built this tallest structure. That is, I think, personally, in my opinion, is it a sustainable building? I don't think so, because that was built to stroke somebody's ego. Because now you got this huge structure that has to be maintained, and there is a certain amount of, investment that needs to be made on a regular basis. There's safety issues, security issues, and so on and so forth. So I'm not too enamored by those types of projects, especially in the Middle East, where they think they can throw the money and build it. Even in Doha, along the bay, they were going to build to cut across the bay instead of traveling around the bay area. They were going to cut through and build 7 cable-stayed bridges, and then it'll take a dive underneath the ocean, and then they'll build a tunnel underneath the ocean and then come back up onto another, cable-stayed bridge. All that looks enamored, but is it sustainable? Are we using the resources in the right way? No. But in India, we have 1.3 billion people. And how many of them lack running water? and how many of them have flushing toilets? I mean, so there's a lot of demand in terms of connecting and providing those types of things for the health, safety, and welfare of all citizens. So India is a huge market in my mind, but the government needs to make sure that they invest the right amount of money to build all of those things so that we can uplift everybody and leave nobody behind. So if you look at Southeast Asia, a lot of these countries, which we call as emerging economies, have a lot of potential. So,
Thank
and
you,
I think,
sir.
and I think,
Sir, we'll take 1-2 more questions.
yeah.
Shall we? Okay.
Yes,
Thank you,
please.
sir. Sir, Mr. Amir want to know what we can do to be a good global engineer.
These types of webinars, learn, don't bury your head in the sand, learn about other things that's happening around the world, learn about the new trends, learn about the new technologies and the tools, and stay abreast. And so, if you're not staying on top, understand the various codes, understand the various tools that are available to you to make you a more efficient and a better engineer. And understanding how people do things differently in different places is good. I think Dr. Casey Tayad had a question.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So he had a question. Yeah, please.
Yeah. Hello, sir. How do you see the prospects and explain the role of multimodal integration in mega cities?
It's
integration of transport. Yes, sir.
Yes, every mode of transport is integral to making the society accessible and more efficient, right? So, I always tell people, when you're looking at developing, the densities and so on, the land use planning, we first need to think about God-given gift to mankind of using our two legs to move around. So that's first one, right? And then the second one, we need to look at, as you probably are, the public sector, the transits, and so on, because that reduces the number of cars and the need to, have own cars. Now parking is becoming very expensive. Maintaining a car is expensive. And then, of course, you have the fossil fuel issues and the emissions and so on from individual cars. So we need to look at the BRTs, the transits, and other modes of transportation. So we are now looking at even electrification of all bus fleets. Most of the transportation in India, the buses are diesel-run buses, and then even the transit systems, you've got those engines with, if you remember in those days, the black steam coming out of the thing, and you go home and wipe our faces, your hair is black, all of those kinds of issues. So we need to find a way to electrify, make them more efficient. So integration of modal and transportation and helping people move around is key to minimizing our carbon footprint. So I think what you're doing there with the metros and other things are all very, I would call them as a backbone to a very flourishing society and a community. So,
sir, keeping this concept in mind, actually our Maharashtra Metro has embarked upon the concept of multimodal integration, and we are on to integrating it from last mile to first mile connectivity also.
The first mile to last mile.
First mile and the last mile connectivity from metro.
Yeah, we
have some electric vehicles also, sir. We are deploying more and more of them.
Yeah, because we are trying to connect them through the bus systems, make sure that the time, between intervals between the buses and the bus stops are more predictable and are short, so that people can access, the last mile and the first mile. And then we also have these, automatic electric scooters and other things too that they're trying
to.
Yeah, but we have to be, safety is a main issue, and also make sure that, it's easily accessible to people. So, yeah, all of those things are important issues, because that's a challenge. People don't use the system if they're not able to get to from their place of home to the place of work very easily without too much delay. So I think it's very important, and it's key.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sir, we'll take last question here now. This is general question from Ujjiv. He want to know the current scenario. Actually, currently India and everywhere in the world, the civil engineering branch is not a choice of ranker students. Every student want to go in other branch. So please share your thought and message to budding civil engineers.
That's why I very opened my presentation by saying I'm very passionate about this profession. I'm very proud to be a civil engineer. Everybody thinks that you can sit in the comfort of your room, develop an app, and all of a sudden become a billionaire. That's very rare. And, with civil engineering, one of the things, if you think about it, you will always find employment. Because as I said, we are adding 83 million people to this planet every year. The world population is going to hit 9 billion people. And if you think the expectations of these people is not there, they're going to expect a good quality of life as we get more and more interconnected. So the need for the infrastructure is going to only grow. It's a matter of time of finding the revenues to be able to do it. But if civil engineers are true leaders, bring solutions, not just point out problems, but also be able to provide solutions and do it in a very sustainable and a resilient manner, we will always find good working employment jobs. So I think the issue is we need to be able to tell people, and that's one of the things that, we need to make sure that we not only attract the best and the brightest, we also need to provide a good education for them and also to provide them with the tools necessary so that they can be very successful. Because as we all know from India, we are in a global platform. You're competing in a global platform. There is always need everywhere. Like in the US, they want to spend over $2 trillion in the next 10 years. We don't have that many civil engineers to do the work. I work for a company called AECOM, and we are using, on major projects, 25% of the work, we ship it. Where do we ship it to? India. So there are a lot of these major corporations think that they can do a better job and do it 24/7 through resources and other places. So there is going to be opportunities no matter where you are, but if you're sharp, smart, and have the tools and the skills, you can market yourself sitting in the comfort of your home. And so that can be done by civil engineers. There's going to be demand around the world. And if you make yourself familiar with the tools, technology, and also all the standards that you need to be done and get your certifications and registrations, I think you can still do a fantastic job from wherever you are. So I personally think the future is bright for civil engineers and the best is yet to come.
Thank you so much, sir, for inspiring our budding civil engineers. I hope participants must have satisfied with this question answer session. Appreciation note are given here in the chat box, sir, for your keynote address. Thank you so much. We are grateful for the time and effort you took to share your thoughts and experiences with us. Once again, thank you so much, sir.
My pleasure. So Dr. Varghese and Ravindra know that I will always be there for you. So
yeah, thank you very much,
sir. Thank you for a very nice presentation. Yeah.
You are considered and you have graced this occasion.
Thank you.
It has been wonderful time, sir.
Thank you, Walson, sir.
Thank you. Now it's Dr. Ronald from Philippines, Summer University, Philippines. He is there in our meeting right now, sir.
Okay, I'll stay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Madam.
Yes, sir. So today's second keynote address is from the renowned speaker, Dr. Ronald Oral, Summer University from Philippines. So we'll start this keynote address after 5 minutes. Sir, we'll start it after 5 minutes at 10:50.
नहीं नहीं 12 बजे से अभी कितने
Okay, at 12 o'clock. Okay, so we'll start our second keynote address by Dr. Ronald at 12 sharp. So please be on time. We'll meet
Feedback.
here again after 15 minutes.
feedback is there?
Yes, sir. Feedback link is also given here. Participants, please fill it up.
Ronald sir, good morning sir.
Good morning.
Yeah, it's nice now.
Yeah.
You have been listening to Dr. Guna.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, Guna sir is also there.
Yeah. Thank you for this opportunity.
Looking forward to it. Thank you. In fact, our training and certification person for AECOM is based in Philippines.
That's great. So we're in the Philippines, particularly.
Your capital.
Manila. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm a bit in the I'm in the Visayas. It's the third largest island in the Philippines, Samar. Okay, and
Okay.
I belong to a state university here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're shifting your capital to a new place and all that good stuff. So there's a lot of things going on there too. So
yes, there are a lot of civil engineering activities happening in my country.
Is it the capital is changing, sir?
No. I think there is a plan of moving major
capital from Jakarta.
What? Come
yeah,
again?
we could not get. Yeah, what did you say, sir? Capital movement is there?
What I cannot hear.
You said that capital Manila is getting shifted or?
No. There are plans of moving major functions to another city, but it's going to take time and it's a big battle. Yeah, but that's the direction of the government, looking for another area where to expand, because Manila basically is overcrowded and there's so much thing that can be that needs to be done there. And I think it's easier to move major activities to another city. I think they are looking forward somewhere in Pampanga. I'm not very sure about that, but that's what I've heard so far. But it's a political decision that's not easy to
that's right. Our interferences are very bigger, isn't it?
Yeah.
We are now controlling from Nagpur, sir. This is KDK Engineering College. Nagpur. Have you been to India, sir, anytime?
No, I have not been there. There were plans, but because of COVID, it was halted. There are people who are supposed to go there last 2020 for a training on it's about fifth in what is this fifth the it's more about human resource development something, but it did not push through because of the COVID. Yeah.
So you know some of the topographic geography of the Indian cities and
no, I have not. I don't have great information about it.
Yeah, that's right.
But most of the I have in my pursuit I'm I am having my other doctoral program this year, and most of my readings point to some of the cities in in India, specifically about water resources, the difficulties, the challenges there. So I have a bit picture of some of the cities, but not very, not yet that familiar. So I'm trying to understand that India basically is a very big country. So there are so many information about India, and I think India is bustling about technologies in engineering specifically. So there's so much to learn also from India. And it would be great also, or an opportunity if COVID ends, I would wish also to visit some of the universities and then the sites also. Yeah.
Sir, over past 2 days, we had wonderful keynote addresses by eminent speakers. That you have the details who were there, perhaps, isn't it, sir?
Hello? Yeah.
Hello.
Come again?
Is it audible, sir? Is it audible?
Yeah. What was the question?
No, it wasn't question. I'm just sharing the information that last 2 days we had wonderful keynote addresses.
Yes. I have seen his bio.
Yeah.
And he's one of, I think he is a part-time lecturer also of one of the universities in Manila, where my colleague is also pursuing his doctoral degree.
Oh, Philip, Dr. Philip, you said?
Yeah, I think so.
Dr. Philip Ermita.
Yes.
Yeah, he was there on the first day as a keynote address.
Yes.
Yeah. We are in fact fortunate that we have wonderful keynote speakers in this international conference.
Yeah, I missed a lot. I was in a busy mode since Friday. So I mean since Thursday. So I was not able to attend the sessions. I would love to have attended all, because I know I can learn so much from these very good speakers, even from the questions of the participants as well. Yeah. I think I just have to review your recorded YouTube live, right?
Yeah, it is going YouTube live, sir.
Yeah, so that's great, because I can.
We had wonderful paper presentations. Around 75 papers were presented by various field people and research scholars, students, professors, and so on and so forth.
Yes.
Today also we are expecting another 30 papers to be presented.
Wow.
Late after your keynote address, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So anytime I'm ready, if it's already...
Yes, sir. We can we begin with otherwise? Madam, if you are ready, we can, because sir is also ready enough.
Sure, sir.
Yeah?
Sure.
Participants must have been waiting for.
Yes, sir. Sure.
Yeah. Thank you.
Good afternoon to everyone. We warmly welcome you all once again. Continuing with the Feast of Learning experience, it's time to have now a second keynote address by the renowned esteemed speaker from Philippines, Dr. Ronald Oral, who has graciously consented to be the keynote speaker today. The title of address is Water-Related Challenges of Cities in Developing Countries. I wish to extend dignified welcome to you, sir, by presenting a virtual floral bouquet. We welcome you, sir.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Now I invite Professor V.D. Vaidya to introduce Dr. Ronald Oral to the gathering. Vaidya, sir.
Yeah, thank you, madam. After a wonderful keynote session by Dr. K.N. Gulan, ex-president of ASC from USA, Now it is my pleasure to introduce our another eminent keynote speaker, Dr. Ronald L. Oral. He has done BSc in Civil Engineering from Somerset University, Philippines, Masters in Civil Engineering from Eastern Visayas State University, Philippines, PhD from Cebu Technical University, Philippines. Currently, he is working as a professor at Somerset University. He has 25 years of teaching experience. During his during his duty, he was designated as a vice president for the planning, research, and extension in 2016. He is also designated as director, research and extension services in 2007, and he is also as a supervisor for the material testing laboratory in 2004 at Somerset University, Philippines. He has attended more than 450 seminars, conferences and workshops at national and international levels, and more than 20 learning and development programs till date. He is having more than 30 research publications in reputed journals at national and international levels and has 6 patents of his credit. He is also has remarkable work in the field of surveying. He is also given a consultancy services to the various consultants like mainly affects consultants, soil and construction material testing. I am very confident that your keynote will be enhance the knowledge in the field of civil engineering. Thank you, sir.
Now I request Ronald sir to please proceed with the address. Ronald sir, over to you.
It's a bit.
Yeah, sir, you can start. You can share your PPT, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
Okay, I hope you can see my slide.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So good afternoon from the Philippines. Maupay nga kulop. Magandang hapon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I will be presenting to you water-related challenges of cities in developing countries. It's part of my new field of endeavor. I have shifted from my previous direction on soil and foundation design to water, because that is what my city wanted. So a while ago, our previous discussant, our previous keynote speaker was talking about doing something in consideration about the deteriorating conditions of the environment. Basically talking about effects or impact of climate change. And my city is one of the areas that have suffered enough, and most of the challenges that is happening here is more on the water area. So that pushed me towards changing my direction towards water resources. And with that, I am also pursuing another doctoral degree on water resources engineering, and just to focus on water-related problems in my city. So I would like to share to you my experiences and my learnings about the area and about the challenges. Okay, so this will be the outline of my presentation. I would like to discuss about the need of focusing on water resources, especially in emerging countries, in cities of the developing countries. The challenges that have been experienced by communities like mine, and the challenges of making sustainable city. And I would like also to share one of the promising project, but has several issues that needs to be addressed to make it sustainable, and conclusions at the end. Okay, so you might have noticed this, most of the young people tend to want or tend to like going or moving towards the city. Okay, literature will tell us that around 21.5% higher than rural communities. Some communities actually are even 85% more in urban centers than in rural communities. Okay, so to accommodate the growth of cities, local government units or governments can choose between moving vertically or expanding horizontally. Okay, of course, there are issues to be taken into consideration when talking about expanding horizontally, no? Because of the scarce availability of land. Okay, so the limited land resources makes it difficult to expand horizontally. Like my city, for example, all of the three corners are mountainous, and the fourth corner, or fourth side, I mean, is the sea. So there's no place to expand it. Okay, so okay, if you're going to look into the contrast, no, the contrast of developing world and the first world. When cities in the first world grow,
मॅडम ने ब्लूटूथ डिस्कनेक्ट हो गया था सर माहिती आजही परत प्रॉब्लेम झाला आणि छोटी आशेच्या मोबाईल ते आशेच्या मोबाईल तो मैम को बोल रहा हूँ जबकि मेरे ये लगा के रखे हैं कनेक्ट अच्छा चल रहा था तो बोला चार्जिंग को लगाने बोले तो वो डिस्कनेक्ट हो जाते हैं चार्जिंग को लगाने का सिर्फ माझे तो येऊन का नाही माझे चाहता था तो लॅपटॉप लावला पण हा नाही दिसत ना आमचं मॅम एक्सक्यूज मी मॅम
your mic is not muted.
Okay. So I'll proceed. So developing countries would have always a problem of making their cities sustainable, no? Primarily because of limited funds. So first world cities or cities with much resources can develop their communities pretty well and pretty beautiful, no? Or basically beautiful, I mean. But developing countries or cities in developing countries has that challenge. So you really see the difference. You know, that's perhaps the reason why there is no second world, because the first world and the third world usually would be very, very much different. So you can notice that when you travel all around the places or globally, the difference between the cities of the first world and the cities of the developing countries. Okay. Throughout the history, communities have been built in banks or rivers or mouth or coastal zones, primarily because there are so much resources in those areas. And in the past, it's used for navigation. But because of that as well, you know, many of these cities are facing unsurmountable challenges, specifically due to deteriorating environmental condition. Okay. About 90% of urban areas are along the coastal, making them prone to effects of the climate change. You know, the rising sea level, storm surges of due to strong typhoons coming in and out of the cities, especially my community or my region, where about 20 typhoons pass by every year. Okay. The sheer weight also of buildings and too much groundwater extraction causes subsidence in the city. So it's another challenge of cities that are not properly planned. Cities in the developing world are prone to committing mistakes in its choice of urban development because of the lack of resources and perhaps skills and politics, perhaps. The decisions of our local authorities might have some flaws along the way that, when not given so much attention at the start, may have very tremendous impact in the future. Okay, so you can look at the common problems that these communities are facing. No, my city, for example, is regularly facing the threats of flood. No? There is so much water around, but there is not so much water also for drinking or for domestic use. So you have so much rain from the precipitation, it results into floods, but you do not have much water for people to consume. So it's a contrast, and it's ironic in the first in the picture, you know. So you have also the cities facing, especially my communities here, facing regularly typhoons, for example, and threat of storm surges is always there. Okay, so for the challenges, I was able to identify 5 major challenges of cities in the developing world. Okay, so communities were built where resources such as water is available. That's what I pointed a while ago. But because of urban expansion, uncontrolled development, and improper or weak implementation of policies or laws, then water resources decline. So you have springs, you have groundwater affected by uncontrolled development. Okay, and because of that, and since moving the city to a new area is something difficult and very costly, so cities are looking for alternative sources of water. So would have 4 sources. They have the water from local catchment, imported water, new water, and desalinated water. But that's not possible for cities in the developing countries, primarily because of financial requirements in developing this type of resources. So some example of technology, rainwater harvesting. This technology is an ancient one. No, but in current years, this has been revitalized with modern scientific approaches to make it more useful, to make it more efficient and healthy or clean or safe, I mean. Okay, rainwater collected from roof usually is much cleaner. So that's something that developers or engineers would have to consider. No? So however, rainwater that drops into the ground becomes runoff and collected through canals and impounded in basins and for purposes of water utilization becomes a bigger challenge primarily because of contamination. So that would require more resources in cleaning it up. No? So avoiding or minimizing minimizing contaminants from reaching this water resource is very important. So there is a huge market, you know, in the US, for example, it's about $1.3 billion market. So most for commercial purposes and followed by residential, then industrial and agricultural. Another technology for water supply that can be used is water desalination. But of course, this is expensive. No? So with the advent of technology development, it has been becoming cheaper. No? But for developing countries, or cities of developing countries, it's still very expensive. No? But seawater is considered to be a drought-proof measure. Okay, as far as I know, countries like Singapore are trying to develop procedures or protocols that would make it cheaper, no? So that it could be fully used, no? Because Singapore basically is relying so much from imported water from Malaysia. So that's also very expensive. So trying to develop new approaches of desalination of water is one of their focus. Okay, construction, operation, and maintenance cost is dominated by energy use in desalination technology. Another is wastewater use. Okay, list of the choices, you know, primarily because it's going to be very expensive, but cheaper than desalination. However, maintenance cost of machines that cleans wastewater, no, is expensive. And then it's less accepted by people, perhaps because of the dirty connotation of source makes it unpopular to many. Okay, another challenge is urban runoff. Okay, so as I have said,
Saurabh,
there's so much water available,
I am on speaker
but
phone.
water
Good
supply
afternoon.
is
See, you have called me on
a
17th,
challenge.
and then your manager on CPM also called me that day. No, I
Hello?
told you कि मेरी बात हो गई.
Friday, sir, please mute. Okay. Sir, please continue.
Okay, thank you. Just for example, my city, as I've said, my city lacks water, but there is so much rain available, and flooding is constant. So making use of this water for domestic and commercial use is very much an opportunity for us. But how to this resource is another concern. Okay, because of high urban runoff, drainage, the reason why we are flooded all the manage urban runoff by improving, perhaps improving ground cover. Okay, maintaining vegetation or making use of permeable surfaces like permeable concrete, for example, or pavers, use of pavers. So this will improve infiltration. But of course, this is a challenge for roads because roads usually is dependent on the foundation. And if water is allowed to penetrate into it, then that's going to be another challenge at all. So trying to balance these ideas would be some areas of concern for civil engineers as well. Designing porous pavements, for example. Another is wastewater and freshwater contamination. Wastewater production goes with growing population. As population increases, then production of wastewater is all going to increase as well. And improper disposal of wastewater contaminates other sources like groundwater or even surface water. So for example, in the Philippines, you have the famous Pasig River, for example, which high contaminants. The government is trying to clean it up. And this is, I think, true to many of the rivers in the Philippines, and I think also in the other developing countries as well. So it's a challenge for communities to control wastewater. So wastewater treatment is usually not a priority in many developing world. So if you're going to visit many of these cities, you'd really see that rivers are either dark in color or smelly. So an indication that wastewater is, the river waters are polluted. So the wastewater treatment is quite expensive, and technologies towards it is available, but also is expensive. Okay. So water supply from freshwater sources are the cheapest. Now, so if you're going to look at the graph, groundwater would be the cheapest of them all, primarily because it's already clean. So some maybe we'll just have to remove the hard water content in it. Then the imported water is the costlier. So if we can manage our water supply, the fresh water supply in our communities, then that means production of water resources or water supply would also be cheaper for our communities or for our people. Okay, so urban growth expansion threaten its sources. Since most of the cities most of the communities were situated in areas where these resources are abundant, but because of the expansion, these same resources are gone now. Okay, pushing local government unit to look for water elsewhere. Okay, implementation of policies are weak in third world countries, especially about environmental policies or environmental laws. Again, another is flooding and sea level rise. So flooding is common in many cities for developing countries, primarily because drainage were not designed to receive the rapid growth of population. Waste disposal is affecting the capacity of rivers. Soil erosion because of expansion, and uncontrolled development causes drainage, natural and man-made, to be overrun or to be silted, no? So causing flooding regularly. Okay. Sea level rise, I think, is one of the most difficult challenges that cities in the developing countries has to face. One, most of these cities do not have that much money to protect their cost from water entering into their communities, and it's impossible for not so rich cities to mitigate that. And the easiest way out is basically moving to higher elevation, and that's what I'm going to share about in a little while for the case of my city here in the Philippines. Okay, cities today are replanned. No, good for our. I mean, in the Philippines, it was made mandatory that all plans must integrate climate change adaptation, the CCA, and disaster risk management. Land use plans in the country are required to be updated and incorporate climate change adaptation strategies into those things. But to date, there are still a lot of local government units without CLUPs or CLUPs or plans without CCA and DRRM integrated into it. But because of the push of the government, I think they are trying to address these concerns. No, the challenge, the potential impact to cities are so much that it cannot be ignored. Okay, so I would try to share to you one of my favorite topic in the past several years. The case of Catbalogan City, where my city is located. Okay, so you can see there on the left picture is the city, where it's just occupying about 2% of the total land area of the city. For one reason, it is surrounded by mountainous ranges. No? So there's no way or there's no area for expansion. One expansion potential is reclamation. But of course, taking into consideration, let's say, the challenge of sea level rise, the challenge of typhoon regularly visiting the city. So you have storm surges or challenges of storm surges to the city. Okay, my city is not that big, no. So it became a city in 2007. I think the highest building here is just about 6th floor. Most of the buildings are either 3 or 2 floors, and so that's not as big as other cities in the world are. But because it is concentrated, the challenge is more difficult. Okay, so it was conceptualized. The local government unit conceptualized the plan after Yolanda. No? My city becomes a city of refuge of those who were affected by Typhoon Haiyan in 2013. So the geographical location of my city, wherein the typhoon comes from the end part of the picture. Okay, so it basically protects the city from the harsh winds of Typhoon Haiyan. So basically, we have not been damaged badly by the typhoon. So when our surrounding communities in Tacloban or in Leyte and other parts of communities in Eastern Samar were affected, we were among the cities was less damaged, and we have supported these communities in the early part of their survival. And that made our local government unit think of way of how we can address the challenge of climate change, like the storm surge. So if storm surge, for example, is going to happen in my country, in my city, is really going to submerge almost all of it, perhaps 80% of the city. So that risk, you know, of submerging the city when a similar storm surge occur, push the local government unit for in trying to look for alternative area for growth. Okay, so the thought of making the Sky City mega project as becoming a model of localizing the sustainable development goals, the new urban agenda, and the Sendai framework to create a resilient, safe, and sustainable city. But any development always will result into pros and cons. No? So it's just a challenge of what would you be selecting, this option or the other options. In my analysis, we have at least 3 options. No? So the first option that I had analyzed before is the northern barangays of Catbalogan as the new urban center, no? Because there is less challenge
Sir,
in
voice
those
is
areas.
muted, sir. So voice is muted, or else.
Hello? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, sir, you can hear.
Okay. So there are 3, as I've said, there are 3 options. You have the northern barangays of or northern villages of my city. The other option is the reclamation, the waters fronting the city. And the third option is the Sky City mega project. And then analyzing the pros and cons there, they would have the best option, of course, would be the mountain or the Sky City mega project, but it is marred with very challenging issues, and I would like to share that. So for one, I will be just selecting the water related issue. So one is that the current city even is not provided enough water. So based on the data available, only 1/3 or close to 30% something is provided with water services. No, so that's huge quantity of the community without water supply. No, so if you're going to add another city with limited water resource, that would be again another challenge. And then next is water-related challenge. Underwater-related challenges is the increased runoff due to change of land use. So the Sky City mega project is about 440 hectares on a mountaintop. Okay, so the change of land use in that area would result into increased water runoff. No, and that water runoff together with the sediments from erosion is going to affect the old city. Okay, so you can see there it's one area of the only river in the city after a typhoon in 2014. It's not yet even the result of the development of the Sky City. No? So it's just part of the current condition of the watershed in the area. So every time that there is a huge precipitation, high intensity rain happening in my area, you'd really see waters flowing into these canals, into the surface, heavily silted. So that is one thing that has to be considered in the development or in the continuous development of the Sky City mega project. Another is that 80% of the old city has high to moderate flood risk. So that means when there is so much water, expected that the city is going to be flooded. So that's something that local government unit has to take into consideration seriously. No? So when you develop the Sky City mega project, it's going to improve or increase water runoff, and the river is heavily silted. Okay, even regular declogging or regular desiltation activity is not sufficient because there is just so much eroded material that goes with the runoff waters. So the low elevation makes the old city also vulnerable to sea level rise. And though extreme storm surge event like that what happened in other parts of Region 8 during the Typhoon Haiyan may not happen in the city. Another is when there is so much water, the area is susceptible to landslide. No? So if you are going to open up the ground, it's going to expose the ground to water. And when there's changes in the topography of the area, then the runoff is going to be concentrated on one area or the other and may result into saturation and finally may weaken that may result into landslide. No? But that's manageable. That's the purpose why there is civil engineer. No? So we are going to look into the problem and what makes it a problem, and civil engineer would have to look for solution to minimize the factor that makes it a problem. So that's why we are here, trying to look for ways how to address those issues. Okay, so like for example, so much runoff water, no, can actually be collected and then transform into usable water supply. Of course, by designing a system of catchment, designing a system to collect this runoff water will make it more efficient. I mean, will make it less costly. No? Because if you are going just to allow it to be mixed with other type of wastewater, then cleaning it up might be costly in the long run. So taking a cue from the experience of Singapore, for example, so there is a need for these water sources to be compartmentalized so that treatment would be different and use would also be categorized. No? So the dirtiest water maybe can be used to plant grasses or vegetation, and the cleaner ones would be those that would be used for drinking, for example. So there are many ways or approaches that are available. These are existing technologies that can be utilized by any community. What we just need to do is to learn this technology and try to implement this into our communities. So there's no rocket science that may be required from us. No? So there are a lot of technologies available for us engineers to use in managing any problem at all. Okay. So in closing, I would like to emphasize these things. You know, cities' water supply sources are already stressed, and that's for almost all cities around the world, not only the cities in the third world or cities in the developing world. The need for alternative sources and water supply management is becoming more and more important. So while we are thinking of rocket science, we have also to consider basic technologies or basic problems in our communities that needs also addressing. Okay, urban runoff and rainwater harvesting can be revitalized. It's an ancient technology, but with current merging it with current technologies makes it more efficient, makes it more cost effective. Water sources must be sustainably used, protected from contamination. If there are still available water resources in our communities, then those must be protected at all costs because cleaning it up is more expensive. Okay? Countries like the Philippines has enough environmental laws to protect water resources, and then there is manage effects of climate change. But I don't know if it's political reasons why implementing such policies are very difficult. Perhaps because it requires also financial resources. No, so becoming green or becoming climate sensitive communities is also expensive. But of course, the effect of not ignoring these challenges is also going to be expensive. No, and it may cost life and properties that have no value. I mean, that cannot be replaced with money. Okay, and of all challenges, I think the sea level rise is the most difficult to manage. The only way that I know developing countries can adapt is transferring old cities into higher elevation. But of course, that would not be necessary if the world is going to help one another in reducing the factors that contribute to climate change. So that water in the sea or the sea level rise will not happen in the future. And with that, from Catbalogan City in Samar, Philippines. This is, by the way, one of the view if you are going to be in the Sky City mega project in the future. This will be a breathtaking view of the old city. Hopefully, it's not going to be submerged in water when the much afraid, I mean much or when the sea level rise is going to occur in the future. Hopefully it's not. No. With that, maupay nga kulop haingat tanan. Good afternoon.
तुम्ही परमिशन घेतली का आपली कशाची इकडे यायची परमिशन हा बोलून झालं काय बोला काय
Thank you. That's the end of my presentation.
Thank you so much, sir. Water challenges, desalination, wastewater reuse, characteristics that has been elaborated by sir. Case study of development of Sky City mega project is noteworthy to understand, sir. Thank you so much for this wonderful session. Thank you so much, sir. Any question? Please put your question in chat box. Sir, we'll have question answer session now. Sir, one question is here from Dr. Wilson Varghese. How much cost escalation while going through the challenges?
Okay, so that's one area of the challenges in many of the cities in the Philippines. I don't know if I understand it correctly. Many of the communities here have not incorporated this type of analysis in local development. No? So sometimes the costs are usually calculated after events has occurred. No, it's not a forecasted thing for many of our communities. So that's one area of concern in many local government units, because their approaches to development are usually not attributed or are not quantified in terms of effect in the future.
Thank you, sir. Another question is from Umesh Patil. He want to know about the cost factor. Your comment on this aspect, cost factor.
What cost factor?
The entire, I suppose, he's asking about the entire procedure cost factor something.
I do not get it. Cost factor for the development of the city?
Yes, sir. You can comment on that, sir.
Okay. This is one challenge. This is one area why I tried very much to look for answers or look for solutions or look for development options for the Sky City mega project. Because when I tried to look into the details of the project, I find that there is no complete plans. I mean, the idea is there, the concept is there, but the details is still unknown. So that means there is so much help that the city would want, and I'm trying myself together with the team in the Samar State University to look for these answers. Now, so this is yet to be this is a project in progress, and not much details in it. And I am considering this project as my dissertation topic at the end of my new pursued program. So I cannot share the data yet for this project.
Thank you, sir. Next question I'm reading here from Dr. Sriram. Construction in upper side or hilltop may also be dangerous.
Yes,
so
yes,
how
yes.
we should check the erosion and subsidence?
Yes, that's one critical area that I would like the city government of Catbalogan to understand. No, yes, the concept was to address the threat of sea level rise. So we are trying to move to higher elevation. But the mountaintop, developing the mountaintop also results into another set of dangers. But there are models of cities on the top of the mountains that we can really look into, so that these challenges can be integrated into the plans. So this is one area that I would like also to bring to the city when my study is completed. So as I have pointed out a while ago, the area is landslide prone, but you have also technologies to prevent that from happening. So that's the beauty actually of engineering, or civil engineering for that matter, because we are called to respond to any problem available. So it's just a matter of looking for the right technology to address this problem.
Okay, sir. So next question we are taking here, asked by Praveen Kumar. What are the risk factors and how these are mitigated?
Okay, there are a lot of variables. So there are a lot of factors that will make implementing or operationalizing the Sky City mega project, and then transforming it into the term that they use, the new, I mean, a model of sustainable city. Because at the current evaluation that I have done, the challenges are very difficult to address, but there are solutions to it. It's just going to be very expensive, and I don't know if the city is capable enough of financing the technologies that needed to be implemented in the project to make it really sustainable.
Okay, sir. So Mr. Venkat Narayan is asking, please inform world freshwater withdrawals and wastewater.
What was the question?
From where we can get fresh water and wastewater withdrawals, he wants to know.
Yeah, the city, my city, for example, has limited. I mean, that's ironic, you know, because we are just adjacent to a mountain reserve or watershed protected area. Okay, this watershed area produces the water that supposedly my city would be needing, but the status of the watershed is very at a poor stage. So managing the watershed also would increase production of water in the area, and I think this has to be incorporated in the plan of any developing any city for that matter, trying to protect whatever they have, because it's going to be very expensive of if we are not going to address that. So parang it's like you have the resource, just manage it so that it will be protected. No, it will be sustainably used. Do not let go of it. Protect it at all costs, because looking for alternative sources is going to be very, very expensive and difficult.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Varghese want to know what are the challenges and difficulties to get the potable water in islands.
Okay. In my readings, the best the best technology or the best approach is to use saline water, desalination, and I think its use is increasing, especially that protocols or technologies that the desalinate water from the sea is getting cheaper. So compared it to several decades ago and to now, I think there is significant change in the cost. Okay, like Singapore is trying that, and even Middle East are doing that. You know, so I think desalination is one to go for many island communities.
Thank you, sir. Very appreciation note I can see here for your presentation, sir, in chat box. We'll take here the last question from Mr. Aniket. Which are the major cities that are currently going to face the problem of sea level rise, and how much time they have to find other alternatives?
I think there are varying estimates depending on who is studying, no, the issue. Most of the cities, as I have pointed out, 90% of the cities in the world or community in the world are found in the coastal zones. So that means this is also the same cities that may face the challenge of sea level rise. So the difference, or the difference in addressing it is maybe on the ability of the city to finance structures that will protect their cities from being submerged. And developing countries or cities in developing countries do not have that much money for that kind of response. No? So moving away, maybe, but it happened in Tacloban. No, one of the hardest hit by Typhoon Haiyan. The government was trying to require communities to move to higher elevation, but it did not come to reality. Even with so much support from the government, it did not happen. So it's a big challenge, actually.
Thank you so much, sir, for all your answer. We are extremely thankful to you, sir, for accepting our invitation and grace this day. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
So here we end with this keynote address and question answer session. So we'll start the technical paper presentation session within 10 minutes. So to join the technical paper presentation session 5 and 6 today, you have to click on the break room option. So you will see the two options there in breakout room. That is day 3 session 5 and day 3 session 6. You know that the list of your paper is already circulated. So you please check out that list once again and join the sessions accordingly. So you have to join by clicking on the breakout room option, where you will see the two options, day 3 session 5 and day 3 session 6. So you have to join the respective sessions accordingly. So today we have chair of session Dr. Lakshmikant Yadu from NIT Raipur and Dr. Neena Dhamge from KDKC for session 5. Also we have chair of session Dr. Shri Kalyana Rama from VBIT Hyderabad and Dr. Virendra Dehadrai, renowned structural consultant from Nagpur for session 6. I wish all the best to all the paper presenters. And one announcement is here. After the paper presentation session, all are requested to join back the main link from your breakout rooms to begin the valedictory function. More important announcement would be there during valedictory time, so don't miss it. We will have renowned guests from Malaysia too for the valedictory function. And now, I request all to please join their respective sessions. And now I hand over the session to the respective moderators, Professor A.R. Nikhade for session 5 and Dr. B.S. Ruprai for session 6. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Ronald, sir. It has been a wonderful time that... Hello, Ronald, sir.
Hello, yes.
Yeah, it has been a wonderful time, sir. You shared your experience and very dignified keynote address to all the participants. They must have learned a lot of whatever, because a person from the far off places from India, the whatever views you express is noteworthy. So we once again thank you, sir, that you have consented to our request and is a part of our international conference, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
In fact, sir, we wanted you to grace our valedictory function also, sir, but your inability perhaps.
Yes.
Can you
Yes,
can you be there, sir? Can you be there?
What time would that be?
Sir, this will be at around 2 hours down now.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
2 to 2.5 hours down now.
Thank
Will
you.
it be okay, sir? Will it be okay, sir?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. You will be guest of honor for today's function.
Okay.
Right, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, sir. We'll be there that time also, right?
The same link, right?
Yeah, same link, sir. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, I will.
It's our pleasure that you will be there, right, sir? Thank you.
Thank you.
In the meantime, we are making all the participants to move into the 2 sessions are there, sir. So we have made 2 different classroom sessions. So they will be moving out in their respective sessions. There they will have their presentations. There the chair and co-chairs are there, and it will be moderated there, and they will be presenting in their respective session. That will take 5 minutes of time to move from main session to their respective sessions. Thank you, sir. All participants are requested kindly move to their respective sessions, session number 5 and session number 6, please. Ranjan, if you have that IDs, can you make them to move from to the sessions, Ranjan? Dhananjay, slide दूसरा change लाऊं देना.
Yes, sir. Just wait.
Ranjan, please move the participants to the respective sessions. And all the participants are requested kindly select the respective sessions and move to your sessions.
Sir, ask Gomti ma'am to please share that list here. Participant list about the session.
Ma'am Gomti, you please share that participant list of session 5 and 6. Dr. Kalyan Rama is there. Hello, sir.
Hello, sir. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yeah, no, yeah, I can hear you. Sir, yours is session 2. Hello, Kalyan Rama, sir. Yours is session 2. Yadu sir has also joined the meeting.
Sir.
Hello, good afternoon, sir. Yadu sir.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yeah, sir, you are in the session 1. Please click onto the session 1. So you'll go into that respective session 1.
Sure.
Along with,
so here only I will get. Yeah.
Yeah, there the entire detail is available.
Okay, fine.
Your co-chair is Dr. Mrs. Neena Dhamge, madam. She's a professor at our place, KDK College.
Fine.
And Kalyan Rama sir, you please click on to the second session.
Okay, sir.
Session 2. Can you see that breakout rooms are there?
Yes.
Yeah. So there the co-chair is Dr. Virendra Dehadra. He is a structural engineer and honorary secretary of IC-AICE Nagpur Center, sir. Virendra Dehadra, sir.
Welcome, Virendra sir.
Namaste, sir.
Namaskar, sir ji.
Namaste, sir.
Sir, you are in the second session of today. Session 2. That is in fact a session number 6 for the 3 days of event.
Right, sir.
तो आप सर वो ब्रेकआउट रूम में सेशन 2 में क्लिक करेंगे तो यू विल गो इनटू द सेशन 2.
क्या सर?
आप वो सेशन 2 में क्लिक करेंगे सर. कैन यू सी दैट सेशन 2 ब्रेकआउट रूम?
हाँ, ब्रेकआउट रूम. हाँ जी जी.
राइट सर, उसमें सेशन 2 में क्लिक करेंगे. सो यू विल गो देयर एंड देयर आपके साथ में आपके चेयर रहेंगे डॉक्टर कल्याण राव सर फ्रॉम हैदराबाद. So he is chairing the session, okay, and you are co-chairing there, sir.
Okay.
Right. Sir.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Right, sir. Right, sir. Ranjan, please move to the sessions. Those who are in the main session, please make them to move to the main session, sir.
Hello. Meeting is now streaming live on YouTube.
أدخل هذه المواقع تتمنى كل يوم ليش ممكن إنه تنسى لو فجرت ممكن إنه تنسى لا ممكن إنه يدخل قميص حرير